Yeah, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. What's good? Welcome to another episode of Chopping It Up Chicago. I'm your host, Big Bro.
And I'm your girl, BK. I am super excited. I've been really excited to talk about this. And just so you guys know, there will be spoilers today. So prepare
Yes,
thyself. So if you didn't see the new Wakanda movie, then I'm sorry, don't listen because I will be telling everything. I will be saying everybody's business and enjoying it all. Yes.
yes. So today we are discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe phenomenon, Wakanda Forever, the sequel to 2018's Black Panther, the movie that put so many actors and actresses in the spotlight in this Marvel Cinematic world. So we're definitely excited about that. But BK, man, before we dig deep
Yeah.
into the Wakanda world, discuss these superheroes, we're gonna have to talk about a hero to many, somebody who was probably one of our first superheroes when we were growing up, and that's
Yeah.
the original Green Ranger, um, Tommy. His real name is Jason David Frank. So before we
Yeah.
get into Wakanda Forever, before we get into our intro, we're just gonna have a moment of silence for Jason David Frank, who lost his life uh, the last few days. I think on November 20th of this year, he passed away. All right, BK,
Yeah.
man, that's tough. Um,
He
I
was one of
watched
my
Power
first
Rangers.
crushes.
What?
Sorry,
I'm
go
sure
ahead.
he was.
I mean,
All of
he was
y'all was
fine.
out.
It was Tommy. It was Tommy. Like when he went from the Green Ranger to the White Ranger, I was like, I just
Yes.
want to be the Pink Ranger. I just want to be in love with him, and it's okay with my 10-year-old self. Help us. Mm-mm.
And as bad as a show that Power Rangers was, like in terms of just how it looked, it was great. It was a massive part of our childhood
Yeah.
from the Black Ranger having a bad haircut to the Red
Mm.
Ranger being a leader, to the enemies constantly attacking Angel Grove for whatever reason. Like that's where the Power Rangers live. Why are you attacking Angel Grove? But it was just classic Saturday morning cereal in your bowl, watching these guys take down monsters every week. So rest in peace to the OG Green Ranger, Jason David Frank. You guys can go ahead and put your comments if you have anything to say about this young man. He was only 49. It was just
Yeah, he was,
and
and I mean, this is just to anybody, out there, like, go check on your people. Go check on people. Like, if someone comes to your mind, even if you haven't spoken to them in years, just go send a message. Let people know that you actually are thinking about them and that you care about them because you really never know what somebody is going through. And on top of that, make sure that you give people their flowers while they're alive because we don't know, like, obviously he was going through something and in his passing, but it's like he's getting all this love after his passing, and imagine if he had been able to receive that beforehand. So this is just, especially during the holidays, like, it's a lot that goes on. You don't know what is going on in people's lives, but just keep that in mind. Like, reach out to people, say, hey, love you, so happy that you're here. These things are important.
yep. All right, guys, protect your minds, protect your bodies, protect your souls. All right. So we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. We got spoilers. If you have not seen Wakanda Forever, you might not. want to watch this episode of Chopping It Up Chicago. We're going to talk about as much as we can in the next little while. So, back in 2018, BK, the Marvel Cinematic Universe unveiled the Black Panther to the world. The film
Hmm.
was a cultural phenomenon that went on to gross $1.3 billion.
Billion. Yes.
Yeah, so like that in and of itself was big, right?
Mm.
Because that's like Avengers money. You
Mm.
feel me? Like you're talking about a standalone Marvel film that basically just broke down barriers.
Yes.
In a situation where like the Iron Man wasn't doing 1.3 billion, you know what I'm saying? Thor wasn't doing 1.3 billion, Captain America wasn't doing that. But
Right.
we showed up and showed out for the original movie. It was directed by Ryan Coogler, Oakland's own, and it solidified Chadwick Boseman as a legitimate superhero and brightened the stars of several actors and actresses. Michael
Yeah.
B. Jordan's portrayal of Killmonger,
Mm.
he is revered as one of the best on-screen villains of all time. In fact, a lot of people were sympathetic to his character.
Yeah, a
All
lot of
right,
people don't call him a villain. They just call him, they're like, no, he's an anti-hero because
yes,
I mean, there were so many debates going on, especially within like the black community. It's just like, hey, are you T'Challa? Or are you Killmonger? Because, you know, like I feel it.
yes.
I understand.
We could
Yeah,
understand where he was coming from. It was like Malcolm X and
100%.
Martin Luther King, to be
Yeah.
honest. So unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman's untimely death in the summer of 2020, due to colon cancer, sent shockwaves throughout not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the world at large. Right, his demise. It also left everyone wondering who would take upon the mantle of the Black Panther.
Yeah.
Well, with the release of Wakanda Forever a couple of weeks ago, Ryan Coogler and company was able to successfully reintroduce us to the world of Wakanda. Again, there are spoilers ahead. If you are not, if you have not seen Wakanda Forever, leave. Do not watch this. Don't listen to us because we're about to get deep into it. All right, so let's see. We're going to introduce our guest.
Yes.
So go ahead, BK. You can introduce our first guest.
Well, this lovely young woman, I've known her my entire life. She is my sister from another Miss at AAA. And we are going to invite to the show Miss Katora Amos. Hey,
Hello.
boo.
Hey,
Hi.
hey, Miss
Oh my
Amos,
God.
how you doing?
Howdy do.
I like your hair.
Well, thank you.
Stop.
Thank you very much.
All right, and so we also have another young man joining us tonight. Well, not another young man, but a young
Right?
man joining us as
Rude.
well. Yeah, I wasn't trying to call you a young man, Miss Couture Amos, but
I'm sorry.
this gentleman jumped at the opportunity to join us tonight. It seemed like he was just as excited about the movie as we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce Mr. Ryan Sanders to the Chopping It Up Chicago family. There you go. Why are you leaving? There you go. Hold, hold on. Is it blank on y'all side too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan, do me a favor, leave and come back because for some reason your screen is blank. And is this one blank too? Hold on. You guys talk amongst yourselves for a second.
So tell us, while we're waiting on other people to join the broadcast, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you found out that you were first doing another Black Panther movie? How did you feel, Katora?
Well, the first question and foremost in my mind was who was going to be Black Panther, and
Yes.
I was very sad because Chadwick Boseman. I was so proud of him, and I felt like he kind of paved a road for the Black community by just being stand up and amazing in who he was as a Black man and just really representing his culture well. And so my heart ached until this day whenever I see Black Panther, I see him anywhere. I'm a little sad. But that being said, I was like, so who's going to be Black Panther next? and I'm like, it's gonna be Shuri. I know it's gonna be Shuri. And then it was just a lot of anticipation about surrounding who would be the next Black Panther.
Oh, that's good. I definitely felt the same. I felt like when when Chadwick died, I honestly felt like a family member died. Like it really hurt me. I was like, "Oh my goodness," because not only did he play in this film and give, just such great representation for us, like all across the diaspora, but he brought on so many other iconic, actual real life people, that he played as well. So that was important. Hey, Ryan, welcome.
There you
Yes,
go.
yes.
See, look, I got my hat on. I see you with your shirt.
Hey, hey, hey. Oh, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about all of that. All right.
So
So why
Ryan,
don't
same question to you. Like, how
yeah.
did you feel waiting on the film to come out, especially after Chadwick's passing?
It's funny. So I have a few thoughts. One right now, I'm hoping that Marvel understands. I don't want any more spoilers in your trailers. I think that we've come accustomed to we want everything, and then having outlets like IGN and all this stuff. Put the sneaker trailers out, and then you get the two, and then the three, and then people talk about it, and then you pretty much put the whole movie out there. And it allowed everybody to kind of speculate of who's going to don the costume,
Right,
who's going
right,
to be our our Easter eggs. For instance, when I saw Doctor Strange, we all were excited the very first time that we saw Professor X. How
right.
mind blowing would that moment have been if we didn't know any of those characters? Mind you, we everybody was surprised when we saw Jim Halpert was
Mhm.
going to be one of the Fantastic Four in that movie. And it was an amazing moment. But at the same time, I don't think that they put too much out. I just hope that they take that in moving forward. But
Listen,
getting
I
back, go
I
ahead.
ignored every trailer. I covered my eyes. I
I
left the
have
theaters.
subscribed to everything.
I was
Yeah.
not watching trailers for this. I intentionally ignored them. Let me see if Amber's here. And anybody who has, do you guys have headphones so that we can avoid echoes?
For sure.
And let me
Mhm.
see if we can get Amber to the stream. Miss Amber,
Hey,
again,
Amber.
there you
Hey,
go.
can you, I know I'm driving and like I'm breaking all types of rules. Nice to meet you all.
Well, welcome. Listen, here at Top It Up Chicago, we don't care about stuff like that. We appreciate that you
We
here to
care
chop it
about
up
your
with us. Whether
safety. Yes, we
yeah,
do.
you listen. Hopefully, you got that thing mounted on a mount in your car, and you're able to pay attention to the road.
My daughter is looking at me because the answer is probably I'm not gonna incriminate myself, but yeah,
Well, are you close to your destination? Do you want us to just bring you
yeah.
back in?
Like I live in a small town. Everything is 15 minutes away, so yeah,
Hey, I
pretty
live in
close.
Chicago and everything 15 minutes away.
Hey.
Why you lying like that?
Well, listen, Amber,
15 minutes
we'll get
away.
back to you. Just text my phone when you get to the house, okay?
All right, we'll do.
And we're gonna take. All right, cool. All right, so how the way I felt leading up to this movie was just excitement. Like I knew that they were gonna have to tell a completely different story from whatever ideas they had when Chadwick Boseman was still with us, right? Like you already know how directors, writers, and MCU they already have their plans well out in advance. So his loss is like, damn, like how are they gonna tell this story? Who are they going to introduce? Are they going to recast this man? So on and so forth. And as time went on, we understood that they weren't going to recast him. They were just going to allow somebody who was already in the universe to take on that mantle. So I really appreciate what they did. So we're going to get to it, you guys.
I have a
From
question. I have a
what's
question.
up?
Because I had a discussion with one of my friends, and she she was upset that they didn't recast and they didn't just continue on with the story with keeping Black Panther alive, with and not killing off T'Challa.
Hmm.
Because in her mind, it was superheroes don't die. And so, even though he passed, and even though that's terrible, the fact that they're killing off his entire character is what really made her angry, because she's like, Batman doesn't die, Spider-Man doesn't die. How come our person has to die? And I was like, you know what? It's too fresh. It's way too fresh. Like, if it was, um, I personally just could not see anybody else, saying like, okay, I'm playing T'Challa now. Like, it's too close to us. But what do you guys think about that?
Well, I have a resident nerd over here, so he educates me on all things Marvel and comic book related. And so what he said was that there were always different Black Panthers. Like there were, I don't even know how many, but it was always in the comics that Shuri was going to be Black Panther. It just wasn't in this particular sort of scenario. So it was sort of easy for Marvel, and almost like they had to recast because that was the destiny of the character anyway. I personally, growing up, whenever I saw a recast character in a movie that I loved, I would be angry. I was like, you're not who that's not you. You're not them. Why are you here? You're lying to me. And so, I would almost rather them create another parallel where it was like completely different, or even do the comedy of saying, "Hey, you look a little bit different in this one." Like, they've actually done that in movies, which was really comical and kind of helps the audience get through that kind of awkwardness. So I personally feel like I would only want it to be recast. I don't want another person saying that my name is T'Challa.
I agree.
What
That was
about you,
me.
Ryan?
I think it's a difficult thing because look at 300, the 300 franchise. So that story was solely, built on the 300 soldiers, and then Leonidas being the main character. And at the end of that movie, spoilers ahead, he dies. So when they go to create a sequel and that character isn't there, and then the reviews come in and they talk about how it just wasn't as interesting as the first one, you have that to worry about. And also, that was one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie to begin with. When the movie started, it was the funeral procession or whatever we call it, close to their culture. But that was one of the most moving moments. Whether you go on the internet and you see anybody that loved the movie or hate the movie, that was the one moment where we all can agree and say that was a beautiful
Yeah.
moment for everybody.
Well,
But it's
you
hard.
know, for me, he was such a beloved figure that you couldn't replace him. That's
That
one.
part.
You weren't gonna Aunt Viv us. You couldn't Aunt Viv us in this situation.
Mm,
You did. So it's like, we weren't trying to deal with that angst. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. You look like Couture was just saying, you look a little different. They could have taken a comedic approach, but I like the way they dealt with it.
Yeah.
They paid homage. They dealt with the very, very real issue of disease taking people out. Yes, even superheroes. And
Mm,
again, like Couture said, the Black Panther mantle, even in the first movie, was passed down
true.
after death, basically, to the next person in line, and they drew strength from the other Black Panthers. They would go to the Celestial Plane and get advice and so on and so forth. So it was, like Couture said again, easy to take this approach as opposed to going and get somebody else to play the role. I think they handled it wonderfully.
I just think it was almost artful the way that they wrote that, and that was part of the beauty. First of all, I wore my white. We were there in the theater in full white garb, like yes. Um, but that part is the touching part, because to me, I feel like yes, Black Panther is historically, if you can say that according to the comics, he was many people, but I felt like they really spent the time to say that Chadwick Boseman impacted this role so much that we are writing him into this movie. we are making this moment as much about Chadwick Boseman as we're making it about Black Panther. And you felt that it was saturated in the movie. And it was just like, that was the part that reached me, that this man, in the little time that he had been in the Marvel Universe, had changed so many lives. And so you spoke about before how it was a setting up of for the next person. But I sort of feel like this movie was a memorial. I feel
It
like they
was.
just paused and they said, we can talk about the next Black Panther and what they're going to be doing in the next movie, but for this one, we want to grieve. We want to show the world that we're grieving, and we want to show the beauty of this Black man and his family and our culture coming together to celebrate greatness. And that was, to me, what impacted me the most, as you said, in that first scene, Ryan, which was the funeral. Yeah.
There were so many
Mhm.
parallels in this movie to teach life lessons. Like I read somewhere where they were talking about M'Baku and what he
Mm.
played, and he
Okay.
was kind of the pressure
Hold
cooker.
on, hold on, hold on, hold
Oh,
on. We gonna get to Mbaku. We gonna get to him, but first we gonna discuss the cultural significance that we recognize in the movie, not only from the Black Panther Wakanda universe, but from Namor and the Mayans and all the different things with the black and brown significance. Like uh, Ryan, you can go ahead and give me your thoughts on the different cultural representations that were portrayed throughout the movie or displayed throughout the movie.
I think it was beautiful to see Namor in a different light. I think that a lot of people had speculations because they felt it wasn't close to the source material, but what is? I mean, in Black Adam, we have a Black Hawkman, and regardless of how everybody feels like it, I loved it, you know. But
Hey, Black Adam was lit.
exactly,
I haven't seen that one
uh,
yet.
and yeah, I number one, he was an awesome protagonist or antagonist. Um, you felt you felt an understanding of where he was coming from. He was
Mhm.
protecting his people and his natural resource, which is something that we're doing now. Um, his people, the scenes that we saw them in were some of the best. That first scene with them jumping on the ship, it was
Yeah.
reminiscent to even Captain America: Civil War, which is my favorite Marvel movie thus far. I feel like
Hmm.
they were able to. That was the first one where they were able to put multiple properties into one, with a lot of surprises and all that stuff. But I feel that his impact is already cemented just from everyone speaking. Um, how he carries himself, I think he's one of those people with that holds himself in high regard. The people that you love to see, like I can't remember my brother's name from Lovecraft Country that's killing it
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Yeah.
like you see
Yes, he
them and
is.
they're
Jonathan
just
Majors. Yes, Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan
thank you.
Majors a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I feel the
Well,
same way about Namor for his culture.
so Couture in the original Black Panther, like audiences were introduced to the advanced world of Wakanda, and in this movie they introduce an entirely new world. Namor is the main antagonist who wants to protect his underwater kingdom of Talokan. I think I'm saying it that correctly. From
Mhm.
superpowers trying to seek out vibranium, right? And they discovered some in the ocean. Um, that kingdom provides audiences with a close look at Mayan history.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I was grateful for that. I had the privilege of going to Mexico and going to visit the ruins. And on the way, like they started the story of the Mayan history, and you can tell that every part of that town leading up to the actual ruins, it was heavy with emotion and loss. And when I heard the story, I grieved. And there's a statement out there, or a thought process, like you should not compare um, tragedies or genocides. Like there's always, lately it seems like there's a pitting of Black people against Jewish people and Mayan people, and then there's that tension for whatever reason. There's people trying to compare tragedies and horrible things that happen. But when I think about Mayan culture, I agree, because their entire culture was wiped out by colonization. everything. It's only in the past, I don't know if it's 100 years where they're able to sort of re-establish the Mayan culture, and it's why you always see like Spanish people, like Mexican people, are really like holding to that culture. So seeing that representation there, seeing how their sports, like when they were playing, I don't know what the sport, the name of the sport is, when they were throwing the ball through the hoop on the side, just seeing that. I went there and actually stood in the middle of the arena and saw the original pieces on the walls, and it was so beautiful. It's so heavy that such a gorgeous people have been annihilated. So it's almost like an homage, or it sort of kind of connects Atlantis in there, like they're below the sea. This culture that's so deep, so rich, and nobody knows they exist. And it's completely. And so that to me was heavy. I just felt like it was very well written. It was wonderful to see that culture revived again and to see a strong representative of that culture. It was almost as Leslie, like you said before, it's the same scenario, like the anti-hero. You felt his plight just as much as you felt the plight of the Wakandan Black people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, DK? Throughout the movie, there was like so much culture, musically,
Yeah.
clothes wise, so on and so forth. How'd you feel about the music throughout the movie? Because it wasn't just African, it wasn't just hip hop. They brought us Spanish music. They
Fusion.
brought us. It was
Right.
just so much that went into that. What did you think about that?
Before I get into that, before I lose this thought, the very first thing I thought of when we first start talking about like cultural significance is, to your point, Katora, how you said that this is an homage, this is time for grieving. And I feel like that's a part of both of the cultures that were represented. So one, it's showing us it's okay to grieve, like take your time to grieve. Because if you looked at Shuri, like she basically wore white until like the last 20 minutes, last 10 minutes of the film, right? She was grieving that entire time. So certain people, like it takes them a little longer, and that's okay. And I thought that was beautiful. I feel like the grief that was shown within, like Mayan culture and what was lost and why it needs to be protected, and just the similarities between, like, Black people across the diaspora as well as, Latin people as well. And it's just like, hey, this is what happened to us. So to me, that cultural significance, and then you put a soundtrack to it, right? So of course, anything that sound, any music, I'm like, hey, what's that? I like it. Hey. So for me, um, hearing a song in a different language is automatically going to make me go look up that artist, and it's going to make me try to figure out who they are. The fact that they were speaking in Mayan, and I think were some of the songs or like some of the things also in that as well. So like adding that culture to it was amazing, and it brought me to church a little bit. I said, okay, I see you.
I
What about
definitely
you?
pulled out my phone and Shazammed a couple of those songs right there
Yeah,
on the spot.
I
yeah.
have a
Um, it was
couple.
it was an amazing experience. And the movie, as long as it is, I didn't even go to the bathroom. Like I sat there, and y'all know me, my attention span is like 30 minutes. And I sat there the entire movie and watched all of it without moving, without looking at Facebook, without watching
Mhm.
Instagram, any of that stuff. It was
Mm,
my full flat undivided attention was on that screen. And you guys are correct, like BK, what you were saying about the grieving process. It wasn't just her, like all of the characters were grieving. So that's
yeah,
what we're gonna go into. We're gonna talk about our favorite characters, well, not just favorite, but just the different characters throughout the movie. And Katura, we're gonna start with you,
Sure.
and I'm just gonna pick a random character. Let's see. Let's start with this one right here. This is
ha,
Okoye. She's
auntie.
Yeah.
the general of the army of very vicious women that take care of business in Wakanda. So, what were your thoughts of her character arc throughout the film in this movie?
I feel like you felt you in this particular movie you saw her humanity more. She was not infallible, and I felt like the first the first Black Panther movie kind of created this almost colossal person out of her that she could not fail. And that's when you loved her, like, oh my gosh, yes, Black girl power, let me shave my head. Not really, but that's what you felt that energy from her. But in this one, she felt human. She even down to her outfits, some of them, well, in my opinion, some of them weren't as glamorous as they maybe were in the first one, and her character wasn't as sure of herself as she was in part one, and she made mistakes. And so I felt like that was, again, I guess that was the arc of the movie, was let's talk about the humanity of these godlike people. And that's what I felt out of her. I was angry when she was fired. I was like, wait a minute. Hold on, Auntie. All respect, Auntie. You know, we love you. But Koye, she working hard out here. Your kid's the one running the street. How can you go? Anyway, I digress. I was very upset when she was fired. I'll leave that there.
But that produced a very poignant moment in the film, like probably and Ryan, we're gonna go to you, but it was probably, where is she? Hold on.
Oh, I
Where's
have a lot
Auntie?
to say about when she was fired too. We're
Go
gonna
ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
Into
I
it.
can't find the picture of Auntie solo, so I'm gonna solo the whole cast. But
She was killing it.
Miss Angela Bassett, in that
Mhm.
Yes.
moment when she had to fire Okoye, like
Mhm.
that produced, in a lot of people's eyes, I've seen this throughout the internet, an Oscar worthy moment.
Mm.
When she, I mean, and, you know, superhero movies get Oscars for like best score and best
mm,
cinematography, but you don't get best supporting actress unless it's Joaquin Phoenix for the Joker, right?
Mhm.
But
right.
at the end of the day, Angela Bassett, and I'm so mad, I thought I had her picture over here, but Angela Bassett, she tore the house down from the moment she stepped on the scene in this movie until the bitter end. She was
Hmm.
great. What you think of Auntie Angela Bassett's role in this movie, Ryan?
You know, it's not funny because spoiler, she exited. But the moment that she did that, I felt like one of those "That's So Raven" moments where I just started seeing every picture that she's been in that I remember it, all the way back to the Jacksons when I was my son's age. And you a lie and you a cheat, and I don't want you no more. And I was just she killed it. I mean, just so much emotion,
Mhm.
and even in talking about that the moment that we all were speaking on the that's a beautiful picture.
Mhm.
That moment when she was in the United Nations
Yeah,
speaking to everybody.
in
And
church.
Yes.
it's a common conflict where everybody is trying to discuss what we made these promises or whatever. And a lot of critics had something to say. Well, they signed the treaties and all this stuff. I mean, well, the same way that the Avengers had made their agreements to say we're going to, join this pact, but for whatever reason, Rogers and everybody else had to say no. She had to stand her ground, and why? Because they were trying to infiltrate. Oh,
Mhm.
we're not going to
Not
wait on
just
you. We're going to
infiltrate,
do it.
not just infiltrate, but exploit the same way
Mm,
that they've infiltrated and exploited before. Only
there
this
you go.
time, you're not infiltrating and exploring people that's throwing rocks and spears. Like these are people who have technology to defeat you.
Yeah,
That are more
exactly.
powerful than
France,
you, and they know it.
France, and
Mm,
USA. Yeah, so I thought Angela Bassett was like waiting to exhale level. You know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like she was out there. Like she put every ounce of. It's almost like she truly lost a
Yeah.
son and a husband. Like she actually lost them within a certain time span and had to deal with that. And not only
Yep.
did she lose a son and a husband, but in that scene that we were discussing when she was firing the general, at that moment she had lost her daughter too. And the way she wore it in her face, in her
Mhm.
Mm.
voice, and in her heart, that resonated with me. Go ahead, BK. Oh, we
Um,
got Amber back. Hold on, BK. We got Amber back. I think she is stationary. She is safe. How,
hey.
how you doing, love? Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us on Chopping in Chicago with Big Bro and BK. We are discussing Wakanda Forever. And right now, BK, say what you got to say about Auntie before we give Amber her
Okay.
character.
Yes. So I agree with you, Katora, that I was upset when our General Okoye got fired. But when Auntie let her have it, it was, to
Yeah.
me, that was like pent up. That was, you want me to stand with you when you didn't stand with me when I
Mhm.
needed you.
That
When
was
Right.
I had
perfect.
to
Mhm.
Right.
go to a different kingdom and beg for my life, you stayed here. I said, you know what? She's not wrong. She's
You're
not.
right.
I
You're right.
She
can't
was right about
be
that.
mad at
I heard a
you.
lot of black people in the movie there go, mm.
Yes.
It was the truth for me, because when I heard that, I was like, you know what, that is true. And and it's like, against my better judgment, I
Yeah.
let you stay here. You're lucky that you've been working for me this whole time, because that type of betrayal, and then on top of it I have to lose something else. Ugh. ugh I just I need her to win every award all the time, because she gives
Listen, and the
everything.
fact, listen, and when she was swimming to save one of the characters' lives, I
Mm,
just knew to her what's love got to do with her arms was gonna make it, because she always
stop
been
it.
short.
Yes. I was like, yeah, she got the bicep. She can make it. Got the bicep.
Look, them the
Good.
same arms that held that shoe that beat the hell out of
Yes.
Lucas. So listen,
That part.
we've
When she
all
when she died, I was like, everybody died. They killing everybody now. What's going on? So yeah.
yeah. So I felt
That was
like that wasn't.
unnecessary to me.
I didn't feel like it was necessary. I didn't feel like the queen's death was necessary. I think they kind of just fell into the trope of we have to figure out a way to propel this character into becoming the Black Panther, and that's what's going to push her over the edge. But I didn't think it was necessary. I thought that like maybe a near death experience would be
Yeah.
enough. It didn't have to be complete death. So speaking
But
of which, though,
I wore a chest coat after swimming. Why you got it? I was upset.
so Amber, we've already discussed Okoye and we've already discussed the Queen. So I want your thoughts on Shuri's character. What type of growth do you think that she had? How do you think she did in this role in Wakanda Forever? This is Letitia Wright, correct? Letitia Wright,
Yes,
who played Okoye. I mean, I'm sorry, Shuri.
I think the growth of her character was phenomenal because you kind of like I could relate to it a little bit because she was trying to like find her own way into being the next leader of her country. So she didn't know, like she wanted the her brother had, or like T'Challa had, and she thought that she would see her ancestors, and then get at her vision, she saw someone she didn't really want to see, and it was confusing for her. So it's like she was really kind of like the whole movie growing as a person and as a ruler. And I
So,
kind of was like, if I didn't know how they were going to make it happen because of her character has always been more non-traditional when it came to not even she really didn't even believe in the herb or the fact of how they ran the country prior to that. So it was cool and it made sense the way they
and
did.
she was kind of towing that line, correct? Like
Yeah,
she was like a combination of T'Challa and Killmonger,
correct.
and with her anger, she was leaning more toward Killmonger
Killmonger. Hmm.
than T'Challa, which I thought was dope because it wasn't just this black and white, cut and dry. I'm gonna be a superhero. It was
Yeah,
like, nah, f everybody. I'm
yeah.
about to stab somebody. I'm gonna kick them in
Well,
the stomach and break their sternum type stuff.
it,
She
it
was ready to.
yeah, it foreshadowed anyways because in the scene when they were grieving T'Challa, and she said that I will, I want to see everyone burn or see everything burn, and I was like, yeah, you feel that rage, like she's lost somebody really important to her, and trying to find a way to use that anger is always an interesting journey when you're grieving.
Very
So
true.
So, Katura, when she was feeling that rage, her mom sensed it, right? The queen sensed it, and she was ready to step in and take care of business and show her a way to process that grief. And when they were doing that, this dude showed up in the middle of the night in an impenetrable country.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me your thoughts about Namor. In fact, I want to hear everybody's thoughts about Namor, the king or the the ruler of the under the sea type situation.
Well, my first thoughts when he came out of the water, you want to turn around like, did somebody did, just walk up in my house like this? Who are you? Identify yourself. The first thing is shots fired. You gotta go. I don't know who you are, but you inside Wakanda without permission. And then you fly up out the water with wings on your ankles. I'm like, you're doing a lot. You're doing. Who are you? And I immediately, I think I was I didn't know him. I didn't know what his story was. But I know Auntie and I know Shuri. I know we both grieving. We all over here on the beach grieving T'Challa. And I'm like, first of all, you're not gonna walk up on Auntie like this. You know, that's what I was very protective of Wakanda in that moment because I'm really there, right? So that when I first met him, I didn't like him. I didn't want to hear what he had to say because he could have come to the front door and knocked like a normal person.
All right.
Divide.
What do you think? How do you feel about Namor and his proposition on the beach while the queen and the princess were discussing the grieving process?
Nosy.
You thought he was nosy?
Yeah, just rude. You like the young lady said, just popping up out of nowhere, coming in somebody's backyard, trying to tell us, make ultimatums and stuff. I think one of the biggest comic book nerd questions we all had was how are we going to take him seriously with wings on his ankles? And I think they did a wonderful job because you were threatened by him, by his movements, the way he was, kicking everybody's butt when he blocked the club hit from M'Baku and knocked him to the ground.
When he punched M'Baku in the sternum, my dear Couture was like, "Oh no, he's gonna die." I was like, "He's straight. Don't worry about it, cousin." She was like, "No, he broke his whole chest."
Watching Baku, he's knocking him across the room, and he like, "Oh Jesus!" I'm like, "Oh, it's somebody else going." I can't. I'm not prepared.
At that point, I had died. My cousin, she was. How about you, Amber? How did you feel about Namor?
I honestly, okay, initially when I first saw him, was like, what is going on here? Like, who is this person? Even though I know who the person is, I'm like, why is he here? But then after he kind of explained why he was there, I was like, well, damn, he has a good point because his country was exposed, and like, as a person that highly believes in Wakanda, he has the same plight that Wakanda does, just wanting to protect his people and their resources. So while the way he went about it was mad wrong, his efforts were for a good reason. So that's
You
all.
you say he was mad wrong, and the reason why he was mad wrong because of this person, Riri Williams, aka Ironheart.
Mm-hmm.
I had in the theater because I'm a comic book nerd, so like I'm familiar with who Riri Williams is. So when I saw her and it was like Riri, I was like, oh God, that's new Iron Man. And I was sitting next to this person, Tura, like, really? You just tell me who the new Iron Man is right before they release. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just blurted it out. However, Riri Williams was a great character in this here movie. BK, unmute yourself and give me your thoughts on Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. She has a major future in the Marvel Cinematic or the MCU, as haters like to call it.
Well, she was from Chicago, so I immediately was like, "Hey, Chatham, that's right, represent, represent." You had the Chicago
It's time for
flag
the percolate.
in your.
It's time for the percolate. It's
Hey,
time for the percolate.
okay, all right, focus. Um, so I thought she was hilarious, especially when Okoye tried to come get her in her room, and she was like, I know you're not talking to me looking like that with your ashy head." He's like, "I knew it, I knew it." So I really I really enjoy seeing her character. I thought she was very realistic. I thought that, like sometimes you look at superhero movies and you're like, I know that like this is a superhero, but honestly, you're just gonna go with them. This is a stranger. Like it's okay. And she was actually fighting. She was really smart. Um, and when it came to like Namor, I still personally didn't understand his beef with like, we must kill her. I'm like, why can't we just kidnap her? Why can't we just put her over here? Like take all her designs. Why must we kill her? So that was interesting, but I thought she was good comic relief. She's super smart. The fact that she was a college student who created a machine that could help find vibranium, and she was on her hustle and everything. Like she was great. I liked her a lot.
And she did it with parts that she found at like the junkyard and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So there's a reason why she can be the next Iron Man, or Ironheart is her character, is because she had Tony Stark like abilities. Like her brain power is up there. That's her superpower, is her brain. And I love superheroes whose superpower is smart. Um, you can fight, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're smart, you can build a device that can find vibranium in the middle of the ocean. And I understand where you're coming from, Leslie, but I think part of Namor's plight was that he's also mad, like crazy. He's been alive since the 1600s or the 1500s, something like that.
Yeah, he's
So
old and
crotchety.
no, because the
Stuck
thing
in
the
his
thing right
ways.
the thing is, I mean, as we all said, like I consider him an anti-hero. First of all, just putting it out there, that man is fine. Okay. He was a delicious, beautiful man to look at. And I am quite all the way married, but I said, well, look at God. Look what he doing again. Shaba. Anyways, I digress.
You know,
But it was it was more about, to me it was like how he came into Wakanda, right? Because everything he said was true. Everything that he outlined of them being allies was true. That needed to happen. Wakanda technically did owe them because T'Challa should have kept his mouth shut. I mean, I will
facts,
always stand on that. But
facts.
the fact that you come into someone's house and you're like, you're going to do what I tell you to do because you owe me, nobody is going to listen to you right away. Especially, it's like, oh, really? Oh, I'm going to do,
And
nah. And I'm grieving.
he was
So,
cocky. He like, look, we can swim and I can fly. What you talking about?
I
So
mean, until he got dehydrated.
we ain't there yet. But when Shuri was not necessarily kidnapped, when she volunteered to go to his underworld kingdom, um, the queen needed somebody to go get her, and it wasn't Okoye. Okoye was fired. So you know who she went to get? This Hershey Kiss deliciousness right here. We got some deliciousness too, Ryan. What's her name? Nakia? Is her name Nakia in this one?
Yes.
Nakia got down to business. She's like the Wakanda 007. She's the
Lupita.
Wakandan. She's the Wakandan James Bond. So go ahead, Ryan. Tell me what you thought about Lupita Ngoyu. Is that how you say it? Ngoyu. Is that her last name? How you say her last name?
Ngoyu. I can't. I don't know how to pronounce that one.
She
There's a
is
lot of
so she is so
yes,
bad. She is so bad.
beautiful,
She's
beautiful.
Tell me about her character, man, because she wasn't in like the first half of the movie.
So I think they continue with pretty much who she was from the beginning. In the first Black Panther movie, how were we introduced to her? She was on an undercover mission saving young girls. She's now in South America somewhere, and
She's in
she's
Haiti.
in excuse me, Haiti, and she's providing service. And I feel that that's her natural character arc. It didn't change. Um, I liked the costume change. Definitely when she ended up wearing the warrior garb, it was one of the best ones, and I'm pretty sure Marvel's gonna sell a bunch of toys doing that. I've heard a lot of people talking about they can't wait till cosplay next year. That's going to be one of our favorite picks that we see. Um, but yes, I like what she represents, her kindness, and even, and when our girl got fired, I swear in my head and my wife hates me because I talk sometimes if I care. And one of those things I was like, when she got fired, I was like, she's gonna be an undercover mission. Shut up, Ryan. But I
You
thought that
sound
they were
like
going to
me.
do more. Yeah, I thought they were going to do more with that. I was surprised, but yeah, for her to go, on this undercover mission, it just kind of continued on to who she really is as a character. And I hope that Marvel continues on with that, and that these, I mean, all these characters that we're speaking on, that they don't just keep them dead stopped in Wakanda world, and that they do start venturing off into other properties, just like they did with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's a whole
Facts.
nother thing I was upset about, that we didn't see the White Wolf in this
Yeah.
movie.
I thought that's who she was talking about when she said, "I'm going to go see my favorite colonizer." But anyhow, um, you know, with that said, we done talked about pretty much this is the MCU, right? We talked about this earlier. Like they're transitioning to the new Avengers, which are mostly female characters, and they're transitioning to just the next phases of the MCU. But we would be hard pressed to have a conversation about Black Panther without talking about ooh, ooh, ooh,
Hey, okay.
M'Baku.
Mm, mm.
So Amber and Couture, both of you guys simultaneously. Talk to me about M'Baku with his big 6'9".
Yeah.
Listen,
Jesus Christ.
Black
I mean,
Ladies,
man.
go ahead, ladies. Go ahead,
call
ladies.
on the nigga.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have loved Mbaku since the moment. I don't know if you remember the memes that went around where people were like assigning uh fraternities to the male characters and like sororities, and when they said he was a cute, I was like, perfection. I like the way that he had the right balance of comedic relief in his character, but then he also was like a kind of like a big brother, maybe like a kind of character for Shuri. Because if you remember the first movie, they had like a really kind of strained, more of like a irritating type of relationship with one another, and now they kind of have a better understanding. So his character was much needed to kind of guide her into where she was going with her character development. So
He
BK,
was.
unmute yourself. BK,
Oh.
unmute yourself. And then we'll get to you, Couture. BK, unmute yourself and then tell me what you thought about Mr. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I mean, I have a crush on him. Um, Definitely have a crush on him, but just like what Amber said, I really liked how in this movie he was more like a big brother. And so he really was understanding Shuri's grief, and it wasn't like he was trying to take any mantle from her. And even though like the elders, like when they all sent everyone to, like Mbaku's lair, he was like, no, we're good. We'll figure this out. So I mean, I kind of liked her confrontation with him when she was still full of rage, and he's like, oh, okay, that's where you are. All right, I'm gonna be quiet for a second. But um I felt like, even though I kind of felt like he was funnier in the first film. Um, and in this one, he was more brotherly. Like he definitely was funny, but it really was true concern. Like, you just lost everyone. Like, you are the last of your line right now. So how can I be of service to you? How can I help? And I really liked that camaraderie. And he's pretty to look at. So, I'm not mad at that at all.
Okay, and Couture. So David Duke, he that's his name, right? David Duke. Uh, my man is a beast. Clearly, apparently he's delicious, as you guys like to say.
He is a
So
beautiful man. Beautiful.
give me your thoughts on
I liked. I liked how they shot him in this movie. In their first movie, I'm not sure if it was you or if it was my husband that said the perspective from which they shot him changed from Black Panther to Wakanda Forever. In the first movie, he was shot at T'Challa's eye level. So he was more of a peer. You saw him eye to eye. He wasn't as big, but in this one, this man was a gorilla. He was huge. I just kept noticing how he filled the screen when he was on it, and the things that he said were soft, and I just felt like it was such a statement for a strong black man, supportive. At first, I had forgotten he had a wife and kids and all that stuff, and I thought that they were going to try to pair him with Shuri, but I kept noticing how that camera angle made him so much bigger. So it to me it made them incompatible because she was so small and delicate and full of rage, and he was so big. Like, I'm here to protect you. Tell me what you need. And I loved that about how they shot him with the camera and how his words were always there of support. And sometimes he's like, you straight up crazy, but I'm gonna follow you because Okoye got fired when she ran. I'm not about to get fired, so I'm just saying. And anyway, so yes, I definitely enjoyed that about his character.
I love it. I love it. BK, unmute yourself. So when we do this, I can't mute and unmute BK because like we're on the same level. But I agree with what
You
you
hear
guys
that?
were
We
saying.
on the same level, y'all.
He was larger than life in this movie. And it wasn't just comic relief either. Like
Right.
they made him a tactician, they made him a confidant, and I appreciated that. And another person who Shuri was able to confide in this movie was the surprise of Killmonger. He
Mm.
made his
Yeah.
return. If you guys are big fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe like I am, and you saw Killmonger return in What If on Disney Plus, if you haven't watched
Yes.
it, you need to because it is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I didn't expect to see him in this movie. I felt like it would have been too tropey, right? Like I thought it was going to be just a little bit too much. But the way they utilized him, I was like, oh, I can dig that. Like I can dig the way
Yeah.
they did it. They went to the celestial plane and they brought him into the movie in a way that was kind of like undeniable, right? Like it wasn't just
Yeah.
something they just did just for a cash grab or likes and hashtags. It was like, no, this really plays to the mood of this film. So DK, tell me what you thought about Killmonger's appearance in this movie.
I thought it was perfect, actually. So I was hoping to see him. In my mind, he didn't really die. They took one of those beads off their wrist and they're like, "Oop, we're gonna put you right there." Okay, like, he was on our side. But to see him represent her rage and to see that that is who her spirit chose, even though she was denying it, it's like, hey, no, we really are family. And I really liked how it brought back, to me, it brought back a lot of stuff, not just like, oh, it's a character that we love, but everything that he represented, all of that rage and all of that pain and all of that hurt of like centuries that are being passed down, generationally within our communities. It's like she's feeling that now too. And it's like, oh no, I'm going to burn the world because I'm tired of things being taken from me. So I really liked that he basically in essence was her spirit animal. Yeah.
Okay, that's what's up. Couture, what you thought?
Um, he was her hard truth. That was what he, and it was like a almost a spoonful of jam, just a little bit, and that's all he was, and he was out of the movie. But he was so impactful because he showed her what she did not want to accept about herself. And I was a little surprised to see him, but then when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, this makes sense," because Shuri, she had been reputed for like scoffing at the traditions of her people. She wasn't really committed to the spiritual level that her people like approached Black Panther. So it made sense that Killmonger was who she saw, because while this spiritual plane did exist, her mind wasn't there in enamored sort of way. She was all about, give me the facts, give it to me straight. I don't see nothing to prove what you're talking about, so I'm just gonna stick with the science. And so she gained this character that was cynical about life, and she had to accept the fact that that's how she views the world, and it was viewed through unabashed hatred and angst. And so I appreciated that he was her reality check. And it's something about like we all have to contend with a certain level of darkness within ourselves. You have to accept that this is what you're prone to do. This is your toxicity. Own it and choose which way you want to go. And she blacked out for a little while, but she came back. She came back.
Listen to my beautiful background just cheering you on.
Oh my God, you can hear her. I'm so sorry.
We all. So Ryan, tell me your thoughts about Killmonger. How you feel about his cameo in a sense in this here movie and what it meant.
That was my Easter egg moment. I was very very surprised and happy to see him when the camera was slowly moving to the chair. I feel like everybody's hearts rates were at the same level. We all were nervous of who is in this mantle, who's going to be this person. Are they going to do a digital um,
Yeah.
representation of
T'Challa.
T'Challa? Like we had
Yeah.
no idea. And I'm sorry I don't remember everybody's name, but the way you eloquently put it, I actually got a pad here and I was writing it down. It was basically I felt the contention with conflict within. Um, One of the reasons I was very emotional during this movie was my dad went through a serious health scare. Past few years, just a lot of situations have happened to where, and the entire country, to where we are all having to deal with some sort of turmoil or
The
pain.
entire world.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the way that I naturally, which is funny because it's the same way my dad would do it, is we put ourselves in our work, which is the
Mhm.
same thing that Shuri was doing. I mean, head down, and the whatever may come to you may just fly off at will. But it was funny that the one person that you wouldn't think would be the voice of reason which was Killmonger.
Yeah.
And he's telling you like, you are me right now. What are you going to do? And
Man,
it
it was
was it
dope.
was
It was like Kobe telling Michael Jordan to pass the ball.
there you go, there
Feel
you
me?
go.
Like
Mhm.
don't pass. No, you're gonna have to because if you don't, you're gonna be like me. Everybody gonna love and hate you at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it. Like it was a moment of truth, a moment of clarity for Shuri and for Wakanda. Like I was hoping that she was just gonna be the most ruthless gangster Black Panther of all time. I was like, yes, let's get it. But it's a Disney movie, so I could, they couldn't go that route. So I dug it. I loved the cameo. Hold on, my bad. Go ahead, Katura.
Sorry, I keep forgetting about the muting. She mopped him around on that beach for a little bit, though. I mean, it was
Took
uncertain. It
his
was kind
knee off the
of
foot. You're gonna hobble now, sir.
he wasn't quite clear if he was going to see the light of day. I'm just saying he wasn't certain.
Like you ain't gonna be hurt, fam. It's over with. But it's first of all, let's just give a round of applause to Ryan Coogler and the entire cast, direct body that
Yes, give them their flowers.
Why is his
uh,
box so big? He's the tallest man back there.
look
Sorry.
at him,
He he
look
is
at him.
quite large and in charge. God bless him.
He is. There's a rumor that he's gonna play Marcus Garvey in the film as well, so that should be dope. Wakanda Forever, such a great movie.
Mhm.
Of course, there are haters, detractors. None of that stuff matters to me. I thought that Ryan Coogler and the rest of his team put together a great film. So my
During a
question,
pandemic.
yes, during the pandemic. So before we get into what you guys think the future of Wakanda holds,
Mm.
let us what you thought about the post credit scene.
Well, I had a few mixed thoughts. As soon as they showed everything, I was like, wait, wait. I was like, oh, she's about to burn her, garment. Everything is good. And then I'm like, wait, wait, wait a minute. That's a baby. That is a whole child. I'm like, okay. So now I have questions. I'm like, okay, so they were together. Were they married? Was it a secret marriage? What went on? I don't know, right? And so it's just this whole thing of So okay, I had mixed feelings. My mind is going in like five different like directions. On the one hand, I'm happy because the little boy, how he's like, I am Prince of Wakanda, and I was like, baby, yes. But then at the same time, a part of me, I was like, but he's growing up without his daddy, and that is what hurt. I was like, kind of like not in the same sense of like another young black man without his dad, but at the same time, I was just like, that floated through my mind. But most of it was just joy and excitement because I'm like, what are we gonna do here? I need to know. What about you, Ryan? How did you feel?
Mute yourself, Ryan.
Emotional moment. Um, Black man. I think this movie definitely had a lot of parallels. That was one in a moment where you're thinking about you may not be here forever, and your child may have to continue the dynasty of the family. It was unexpected um, to see this beautiful black child. I was very
Mhm.
very handsome young man. I don't know who he is, and I'm very good at. I'm usually good at googling who people are. One person we didn't mention before was Ludwig Göransson. I think he's how you pronounce his last name. He's the composer on this
Mm.
project, and he's done Black Panther and a whole bunch of other projects. Started Community with Donald Glover, but seeing
I know that
that,
name. That's
yeah,
dope.
yeah,
I didn't even
um,
know he did that type of stuff. That's dope. That's a dope little tidbit.
yeah,
If you ever watch Community, you talking about the is he Middle Eastern? The gentleman who was hand tied to the hip with Donald Glover's character on Community. Community is
yes,
a
he's
great
hilarious. Yeah,
great television program by Dan Harmon, the same dude who does Rick and Morty.
mm.
Y'all definitely need to check out Community if you haven't. It's on Hulu and so on. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, it's emotional, and there's a lot of speculation because you don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to use him in the uh, future iterations of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? The very first inkling I think I had with Marvel was back in '06. I believe I was in Korea, and at our PX over there, you have whatever DVDs you can buy, and they had the Marvel The Next Generation ones. One of them was basically all the children of all the Avengers had to become the Avengers. So that basically had that idea in my head. Are they going to play along with this and allow, T'Challa Jr. to carry the mantle? Um, and then, as BK said as well, the closure. I felt the older I get, I just start feeling stuff. Something happened, you just start crying. When she put the garb on the fire and finally like it was that complete closure moment of I'm going
Mm.
to finish this traditional moment and allow this exodus the way it needs to happen and sitting there. I never liked Rihanna's song, I'm gonna lie to you, but when they played it at the end, everybody in the movie, the whole row knew I was crying. But I it was a wrap, man. It's seeing that young man, it was a beautiful moment. So yeah.
Oh.
And Couture.
Good God, that's how you were in that last moment. That's okay, no shame, no shame. Um, I had mixed feelings about. I had mixed feelings about Lupita's character in general through the whole line. Yes, she's beautiful. I love her as an actress. I think as a person, I think she's amazing. But as this character, I felt like she was always walking into a world like she was always torn between two worlds. She couldn't decide where she wanted to be. And I guess that's human. She was in love with the king and she wanted to be an advocate for the people. So that is very noble and very good. But for me, my conflict is this boy is without his father. His father is dead. His father, he had to watch his father be sick and his father pass on without the insulation, comfort, warmth of a family. And his mother took all that upon herself to help him through that. But how much stronger could he have been had he had that grandmother, even though she visited, but had he known his auntie, had he had that grandmother to hold him close and say, baby boy, your father is, before he passed, is great, was great, your grandfather was strong. I feel like our young black men need to know. I hear it said so much. Who came before? Why they were so important? Who came before that as it relates to you? Not just Martin Luther King, but your grandfather and your father loved you beyond measure. And I felt like that story needed to be told. It probably was told, but I felt like he needed to feel that more, being surrounded by his people, being surrounded by his culture. I understand that they did not bring him in because of the fact that they didn't want the burden of the crown to weigh heavily on his young little mind. But I felt like I don't know, he could have experienced so much more had he been insulated by his extended family. It was sort of an Easter egg. I'm like, okay, well that makes sense because they were trying to bite each other the whole first movie, so it makes sense they're gonna have a baby. I just didn't know when it was gonna happen. He was like, I have Lupita or whatever her name was, Nakia, and that was it. I'm like, oh, you really special. You can't even use the word. So y'all gonna have a baby or two or three or four or five. So anyway, I was somewhat surprised, but not really.
I
All right.
can't. I cannot with you at all. But very eloquently said, madam. Very eloquently said. Yes.
Listen,
Yes.
we appreciate you guys for joining us. One final question, because this has gone longer than I anticipated, but it's been a great conversation, and that's how it goes. Like you look up, like, oh, it's already been an hour and 10 minutes. Jeez. Um, however, I'm gonna get Katura's thoughts, and then we'll get Ryan's thoughts, and then we'll close out. What do you
Mm.
guys think the future holds for Wakanda?
I am excited about Wakanda juxtaposed to what is the place? The Mayan the Mayan country. Hello, my words. Um, how their relationship moves forward because now they both have vibranium and they're both powerhouses in this world where everyone's like, oh, little Africa, oh, non existent culture, we're not worried. And they are the most powerful, both land and sea. So I'm aware that the king of the Mayan culture is like, we're not really your friends, but we're going to kind of cultivate a relationship. I feel like they can become friends, especially since now Shuri has taken up her role and they had a relationship or at least able to come to the table together and talk about their hurts. So I'm just curious to see what's going to happen, who's going to be the villain against these two powerhouses that now probably America, that's where they're going. But
Colonizer.
Them damn
I'm
colonizers.
curious to see
Gabby.
what happens for Gag now. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and you
Yeah.
gotta.
I never know if it's on you or not. I'm sorry. I I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Julia Dreyfus and
Yeah.
and also the Martin Freeman. Those two characters, we kind of left with a cliffhanger of what's going to happen. I
I
hope
didn't
that
mention the colonizers because we weren't focused on them today.
there you go. It's all black segment. Um, Very curious. I want to see what the Thunderbolts has in store if they're going to start playing back, to Wakandan foundations. Are we going to see our soldiers in any other properties moving forward? There's a lot of Disney Plus stuff happening. They're talking about
Yeah.
doing a Wakanda TV series on Disney Plus. Disney Plus can't do no wrong right now in my eyes. I think that they're forward thinking, as opposed to DC spending $90 million to do a Batgirl film that we'll probably never see because
Say
people
it
have
again.
an issue with women roles or whatever the case may be. I'm not in their shoes. I don't know what it is. I'm very upset about that because I love Michael Keaton, man. He's my very first action movie cartoon cinematic experience, so I'll always be a Batman fan. Um, I feel privileged to be able to see these characters on the big screen and then feel a cultural connection So to see other cultures being embodied into this IP and feeling the same uh, feelings that I feel as well, whether it be, the memes that we're seeing on TikTok where everybody can sit and say, you know, my enemies call me cuckoo God, and saying everything back, it's very exciting. And I hope it's not the end of Wakanda. We'll see what happens. And I'm looking for Blade. We just found out that Lovecraft Country's director is going to be doing that. So I hope they bring him, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovecraft Countries. What a great program that was. Too bad it only got one season. You can already understand why that happened, but that's another conversation. Um,
Thank you
so
all for bringing me on. I haven't been able to talk about this with anybody.
Oh,
So
That face.
I
Oh
just, when you were like, come to the show, I was all over the place. It's like, yes, I want to talk about this movie. So
that's how
thank
we
you very
feel.
much.
We were gonna do it last week, and we were like, let's give people another weekend, another opportunity. You can
yes.
the 2 weeks notice to watch the movie, and then maybe the viewership is kind of down this week because people ain't seen the movie, but they'll watch this on YouTube and comment on it and so on and so forth. We're
Yeah.
excited to hear your thoughts, Chopping It Up Chicago family. Y'all give it up for Ryan Sanders and Katura Amos, y'all. We appreciate you guys for
Yay.
sliding through,
Yes,
chopping
yes,
it up
yes.
with us. BK, y'all already know how to find us. Chopping It Up Chicago on YouTube. Uh, Chop It Up
Facebook,
Shy on Instagram.
Instagram. Shy chop
Yeah,
it up.
Shy Chop It Up.
Shy chop it
Big
up.
Bro,
Yeah.
Big Bro of Chopping It Up Chicago on TikTok, and then you also have Big Bro of Chopping It Up Chicago on Facebook.
Facebook.
And
Yeah.
BK, you can find Butterscotch Kisses
I'm
anywhere,
just
baby. It's the
butterscotch
holiday season.
kisses across everything because I'm butterscotch and I like kisses. Um, but thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you once again, Chopping It Up family. And you know what? Whether you saw this live or if you see it later, don't be hesitant to leave comments about what you think the future holds for Wakanda and all of your thoughts, who your favorite characters were, and all sorts of things. Um, I'm also excited. Hopefully, they'll be on Disney Plus. I mean, if nothing else, we have shown that the Black dollar across the diaspora, people will go see this movie. They will go see anything with all these things. So that is something I'm extremely proud of. But make sure that you guys have a safe, fun, belly filled Thanksgiving. I hope you eat all your good, delicious food. And we will see you guys next week. Yeah.
You
Let's see if,
already know. And
yeah.
one more time before we go, we definitely want to just say rest in peace to Jason David Frank. One more time, the original Green Ranger.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get rid of this banner first so we can do this properly. Rest in peace to this man. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Happy Thanksgiving. Eat all the deliciousness.
Yeah.
Let me unmute Couture and then real quick so they can say their goodbyes.
very well. Thanks for having us on the show. Thanks for having me on the show. I can.
And then unmute.
Thank you for having me, Katora. Thank you for your thoughts. The other young lady who left as well. Thank you for her
And then
thoughts.
Amber, of course, thank you for joining us. Sorry, things went up and down. You was driving and stuff, but we're glad you were safe. We appreciate your thoughts on Wakanda Forever and the rest of you guys. Peace out.
Bye.